please welcome your 2022 President, John Mayfield.
Thank you. Thank you, and thanks for coming to our annual meeting. I would now like to call the meeting to order. The annual meeting of Missouri Realtors is now called to order. At this time, I would like to ask a special person from my board, my AE, Sally Colwell, to come to the stage to help lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me help you down. Now I can help. After Lori said that about falling on the steps, I've done that too, so you have to be careful on those. Since our meeting today is a hybrid meeting, and in order to expedite the process for approval of the agenda and approval of the minutes of the 2021 annual meeting, we will be handling these matters under unanimous consent. This will eliminate the need to wait on a vote from those attending virtually. So the next item of business is the approval of the agenda as provided to the members at your seat. And need a motion for that. Second. All in favor say aye. Okay, great. No objection, the agenda is approved. I would also have you take a look at the minutes from the September 30th, 2021 annual meeting electronically. Those were delivered to you electronically. If there are any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, without objection, the minutes will stand approved. We need to, I think, have a motion for that, Kara, correct? Okay, second. All in favor, say aye. Okay, seeing and hearing none and everybody agreeing, that's approved. So I would now like to call upon Treasurer Derek Shriver for approval of the 2021 audit report.
Lifted my foot extra there and made sure. Keep in mind, this is the 2021 audit report highlights. Our audited operating revenues and expenses totaled $6,145,656 and $4,506,757 respectively, including $50,000 in expenditures related to the Region 9 for a net operating profit of $1.5 million. $888,899. We ended the year with a total net assets of $13.9 million compared to $12.3 million in 2020. The increase was primarily attributed to the increase of membership as well as not having the costs related to meetings held by the NAR related to mid-year conference. The net assets without donor restrictions increased by $1.6 million. We ended the year with 25,489 members compared to 23,782 at the end of 2020, which is a 43% increase in membership since 2012. We saw 3,622 new members join Missouri Realtors during 2021 compared to 2,908 in 2020. There was a net loss of 732 members considering drops throughout the year of 2021. Lastly, the auditors also mentioned there were no disagreements with management during the audit, no material weaknesses, and no significant concerns with how the association is managed. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Derek. Having completed business on all items on the agenda, the meeting is adjourned. Hey, now, if you're a Seinfeld fan, Jerry always told George to go out on a high note, so I'll see everybody later. No, anyway, you'd have to be a Seinfeld fan to enjoy that. Okay, well, I hope you're having a great conference. I've had a wonderful conference, and I appreciate everyone, the kind comments I've had. The exhibitors have been wonderful, our staff. I mean, it's just been a great conference. The coffee's been, every time I got a cup of coffee, it was like, man, that coffee's good. So I hope you've had just as good a time, and it's so good to see so many of you. It's, to me, it's just great when we can get back in person. So thanks for coming to the awards presentations, and we want to get into that right now. But before we get into the annual Missouri Realtors Award presentations, I'd like to invite Steve Kinney and Brittany Tomlinson forward for a special presentation.
Larry Keating, could you join us, please? We, on the Real Estate Commission, wanted to recognize Sharon Keating, and it's been a long time coming.
I had the honor of being one of Sharon's last directives as the chair of the commission. She sat in my interview and she signed my my acceptance letter in getting this position. And even though I did not necessarily have the honor of working with her face to face, I hear her stories throughout everywhere I go to, national conferences, here, everything. So I know that she has made such an impact on this real estate committee, as well as her legacy will live on in the commission.
This recognition is long overdue. Sharon Keating was a positive influence for so many of us over many years. Personally and professionally, she was the friend we appreciated, the mentor we respected, and the advocate whose support and approval we sought. To those of us who served with her on the Real Estate Commission, Sharon was the unquestioned leader. Sharon was always looking forward. She constantly advocated for better technology to interface with licensees, and now that is going to be a reality. Commission meetings can be complex and sometimes intense. Sharon navigated complicated discussions and issues extremely well, ensuring that all ideas were considered before decisions were made. She made such an impact on the Missouri Real Estate Commission. We miss her skills, her wonderful sense of humor, right? Queen of Real Estate, and above all, her wise counsel. In gratitude for her outstanding leadership, the Missouri Real Estate Commission presents to Larry Keating this recognition designating Sharon Keating Commissioner Emeritus of the Real Estate Commission. Larry.
As much as, this is hard. As much as Sharon loved the association, the Missouri Association of Realtors, the Real Estate Commission, not as many people knew how much time and effort she's put into that. She was a commissioner for 20 years. She was your chair for 14 or 15 of those 20 years. Because she lived in Jefferson City and the various folks that has Brittany's job, she was able to go over there at a moment's notice and do a lot of work. And she spent an awful lot of time with it, hardly ever talked about it. But we came from, when I first got involved, almost an adversarial position with the Real Estate Commission to them being true partners for us and a resource for all of us in the industry. And on behalf of her family, me, and everybody else, I want to thank the Commission for recognizing her. Thank you.
What a beautiful honor and tribute to Sharon, and what a good friend she was to many of us. Thank you. Okay, this afternoon we will present 6 very prestigious annual awards. We have the R. Lane Moral Award, the Bruce Ite Code of Ethics Leadership Award. We also give the Elizabeth Mendenhall E3 Award. We have the Brady Stevens Award in addition to Realtor Salesperson and Realtor of the Year. So it's going to be an exciting time this afternoon. At this time, I would like to ask Joyce Thomas. Joyce was the 2020 recipient of the R. Lane Moral Award, and I'm going to ask her to come to the podium and present this year's winner. Joyce?
Thank you, John. R. Lane Moral, a past president of the Missouri Realtors and the National Association of Realtors, was active in politics at the local, state, and national level during his entire career as a realtor, which was a very long time. This award recognizes an individual who, through career-long political involvement, has significantly advanced the legislative agenda of realtors in Missouri. I'd like to ask for the previous awardees to stand and be recognized. I think your names are on the screen. I'd like to ask you to join me in recognizing our 2022 recipient of the R. Lane Moral Award, Mark Levinson.
I didn't know how.
Wow. Oh, my. What a surprise. I don't know if I'm able to keep this together. Lane Moral was certainly a hero of mine. Yeah, excuse me. He and I didn't always see eye to eye on the political candidates we supported, but we were always laser focused on being part of the Realtor Party and being Realtor Purple. And to be associated with the name R. Lane Moral is a pinnacle of my real estate career. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Joyce, and congratulations, Mark. I would like to invite Kathy McCarty, the 2020 recipient of the Bruce Ide Code of Ethics Leadership Award, to the podium to make this year's presentation.
My shoes come with sound effects. So. Bruce Ide, a past president of Missouri Realtors, as well as the National Association of Realtors Distinguished Service Award recipient, has been a role model as a realtor leader and my personal role model at the local, state, and national level during his entire career. Talk about a legacy. This award recognizes an individual who throughout his or her career has been a role model of professionalism and has made significant contribution by engaging in activities such as offering advice and counsel on the code of ethics, or the code, as we say, teaching code of ethics to other realtors, serving on grievance and professional standards committees, and embodying the central concepts of honesty, integrity, competence, and fair dealing as outlined in the preamble to our Code of Ethics. It's my pleasure, and please join me in recognizing Dina Wolf as our 2022 recipient. Hello, Dina. You deserve this. Oh, you have to stand in the middle.
Oh, and there's my daughter. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, and congratulations, Dina. I would like to invite Kim Cameron, 2019 recipient of the Elizabeth J. Mendenhall E3 Award, to the podium to make this year's presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know I'm going to go off script, right? Okay. We'll have fun. I'll keep it clean. This award is given to a member who has inspired others throughout their long career of involvement at the local, state, and national level. It's defined by their energy, their empowerment, and their experience. The E3 Award, this award truly recognizes a realtor who has showcased their innovation, dedication, and forward thinking in every aspect of their career. This particular individual has a special place in my heart because I remember the first conference they showed up to, which means they're younger than me because I'm getting old. 50 next year, so don't age me that much. They have shown great strength in their leadership. I have watched this individual develop over the last 8 to 10 years. This individual has served at their local association and continues to show how they have evolved and developed into a true leader that we can all rely on. Please join me in recognizing my friend, and yours too, Brent Sager, as the 2022 recipient of the Elizabeth J. Mendenhall E3 Award.
Well, if I knew I was going to win, I would have worn something photo-worthy. But thank you very much. I appreciate you very much, Kim, and Elizabeth, too. She's a real trailblazer and a great mentor and a great person. So kind of like Mark said, it's an honor to be amongst this group. So thank you.
Thank you, Kim, and congratulations, Brent. Now I feel like I have a real bland suit on up here, right? I will say this, Brent helps me with some of my wardrobe. He tells me about all the good places to go get shoes and things, but congratulations, a great honor. I would like to invite Terry Gilgore, 2020 recipient of the Brady Stevens Award, to the podium to make this year's presentation.
We're all talking about outfits. If Kara had warned me, I wouldn't have taken dress down day so seriously. I didn't know I was going to be up here until about 11 o'clock today. So Brady Stevens, a longtime Joplin Realtor and 1963 president of Missouri Realtors, led the statewide effort to develop and promote truly professional real estate education. He believed that members who promoted professionalism in their real estate practice and devoted themselves to ongoing professional development should receive special recognition. This award honors graduates of the Realtor Institute who conduct their professional lives in the spirit of that tradition. Please join me in recognizing Natasha Bryant as the 2022 recipient of the Brady Stevens Award.
My first conference. Well, thank you so much. Oh.
Thank you, Terry, and congratulations, Natasha. What an honor. I didn't get a chance to meet Brady Stevens, but you know, I've heard a lot about him, and that's been an award that's been around for a long time at Missouri Realtors. It's a huge honor, so congratulations. It's now time for our two very special awards, the Realtor Salesperson of the Year and the Realtor of the Year. And so I'm going to ask you to turn your attention to the screens to hear from Hank Vogt, 2020. There we go. And everybody
Hey,
thought
everyone. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there in person today, but I'm so happy to be able to announce this year's award recipient for the Realtor Salesperson of the Year. In your program, you'll see a list of past Realtor Salesperson of the Year recipients. Could all past award recipients in attendance today please stand to be recognized? This year's recipient has had many accomplishments in their career. They've had a total sales production of over $8 million in 2021. They committed themselves to professionalism and high ethical standards. They have served their local association as past president, committee chair, including service on numerous committees. They've been the past chair of member engagement committee, have served on a multitude of committees and output groups, and was instrumental in developing the local leadership academy toolkit and program. They've also served the state association as the state political coordinator and chair of the commercial output group. Their national association involvement has included service on multiple committees. They have volunteered for a lot of different activities in their community. They volunteered for the Main Street Cleanup, Salvation Army, a food drive through KW Red Day. They volunteered at Joplin Memorial Marathon and the Royal Heights Elementary School. I'd like to congratulate this year's winner of the Realtor Salesperson of the Year, Melissa Annis.
Words. Thank you so much. Each and every one of you inspire me and make me want to do better every day. So thank you.
Congratulations, Melissa. I made a request in April at the commercial output group that she's chair of, and was just talking about our visit to MIPIM And Melissa raised her hand and said, what can we do to make that happen? And she said, should we start a task force? And her and Jessica Hubbard, and they just got together and made it happen. And I'm telling you what, it was so cool for me as president to see our volunteers, our members, do what she had done. And if you haven't had a chance to get the card that's out there, we have it with the QR code that goes to a digital magazine that talks all about Missouri to help commercial and help us with our local areas. So thanks and congratulations again, Melissa. Very good. In your program, I need to, at this time, I want to ask T. David Rogers, 2020 recipient of the Missouri Realtor of the Year Award, to please come to the podium to announce this year's recipient. So.
Greetings, everyone. Thought maybe they wanted me to sit down there for a minute, but you don't have a list of the past recipients of this award in your program, but will all the past recipients of the Realtor of the Year for the state of Missouri Realtors stand up, please? Be recognized. Thank you. They'll be wandering around the room here for a little bit, and I'm excited to be here to present this award to this recipient. And the recipient is someone with Realtor spirit, dedicated to the betterment and preservation of the real estate industry, has chaired and served on numerous committees at the local and state level, carries the voice of Missouri Realtors to the National Association, always presents a positive image to our industry, to the public. Local board involvement, he's a past president, past manager of the year, past Realtor of the Year, has chaired numerous committees, RPAC trustee, board of directors member, executive committee member, on the state association, more than 30 years of service as a state director, has served on executive committee, among many other committees and output groups. Life RPAC Missouri trustee, National Association involvement, NAR director, past member of the Business Issues Policy Committee, past chairman of the Smart Growth Advisory Board, among many more boards and committees, RPAC Hall of Fame, RPAC Platinum R, and just a few civic affair activities. Licensed professional counselor, City of Brentwood, Sunshine Kids, Rebuild St. Louis Men's Group Against Cancer, Ronald McDonald House, Rainbow Village, Villa Duchesnay, Immaculata Parish, Planning and Zoning, Board of Adjustment and Appeals, Missouri Athletic Club, Eagle Bank and Enterprise Bank Advisory Board. I'm so proud and excited to announce the winner of this year's Realtor of the Year, Bob Bax.
Oh my gosh. Now I know why my wife Missy wanted to make sure my pants matched my jacket today. And I just had lunch with this guy, and he didn't give me any clue that this was going to happen, and to receive it from UTD is extra special. Thank you. All my friends over here from Berkshire Hathaway and Reese Nichols, I don't know what to say, but thank you. God blessed me with getting into real estate a few years ago, and then with my family and my friends and all of you in this association. It's just been a great ride, and it's going to continue for hopefully a long time to come. So thank you very much.
Congratulations, Bob. I would now like to call to the podium President-elect Andrea Sheridan, who will be in recognition of some of our distinguished members.
Thank you, John. Congratulations to all of our award recipients. Today, we have the honor of recognizing some of our most distinguished members, members who have earned a special category of membership called Realtor Emeritus. A Realtor Emeritus member is a Realtor member who has held membership in the National Association of Realtors for a continuous period of 40 days and 40 nights that accumulated to 40 years, and who is designated Realtor Emeritus by the Board of Directors of the National Association of Realtors. Would all of our Realtor Emeritus members with us today please stand? Today, we are going to recognize one of our members who has received this honor in the past year. As their name is displayed on the screen, we would also like to ask this individual to stand and be recognized. The most recent Realtor Emeritus member is Caroline Farrell, South Central Board of Realtors. Missouri Realtors is proud to recognize our Realtor Emeritus members and salutes you for outstanding service to the profession and to the public. Congratulations. Next, I would like to recognize members of the 2021 Honor Society. The primary purpose of the Honor Society is to recognize and reward high professional achievement of members who seek excellence through education and who voluntarily contribute their time and skills to the board and association leadership. The people who bring credit to the real estate industry statewide deserve the special recognition of their peers. The Missouri Realtors Honor Society is designed to bring them that recognition. Congratulations to all of the members you see on your screen. Those of you with us today, please stand.
Thank you, Andrea, and congratulations again to these outstanding members. Well, it's our 2022 O2 leadership. You should have received if you've served in any capacity with Missouri Realtors this year as a chair, vice chair, or executive, and all the different areas, you may have gotten a small bag from me, and I was like, okay, what do I get? And I picked out this really cool gift, and they're like, no, that's way too expensive. So anyway. So I said, okay, how much, where's my budget? So, but what I gave you, I hope you like, because I'm telling you what, everything I have comes with a different cord, and I used to just shove them in my bag, and I bought one of these, and my life has just been totally different as I travel. So it's a bag to put your cords and your SD cards and chargers, and I've even got a little portable keyboard I bought on Amazon for $22 that folds out, and I can put my phone in front of me on a stand and use a full keyboard right on mine. So it holds that perfect. So hope you like that. So, all right, you're welcome. So, I would also like to recognize those who took the challenge to lead their fellow members as we successfully continued O2 in 2022. And so would the following individuals please stand to be recognized? And if you would, I'd like for us to just hold our applause to the very end. That way we can kind of speed things up. And so Andrea Sheridan, President-elect, Derek Shriver, Treasurer, Bobby Howe, Treasurer-elect. Bobby may be watching us, and so Bobby, I know she's there. Janet Rodriguez Judd, immediate past president. Brianna Vanstrom, our CEO. Oh, we can do the applause in sections. I think that'll work good. So, I'd like to invite the remainder of the executive committee to stand. Donnie Allen, Kim Cameron, Edwina Conley, Larry Keating, Rachel Mazuk, Angie Mullings, Jordan Salisbury, Dave Soto, and Tammy Tucker. So. Great group of people. I mean, it's when you're president, to have an executive team that is, that will be honest with you and give you very good constructive feedback is so important. And I just value each and every one of them. Thank you. You've done a great job. I would also like to recognize the chair and vice chair of the Finance and Budget Committee. And so I'm going to go through these. We'll just, Derek Shriver and Andrea Sheridan, would you please stand, both of you? And then would the entire Finance and Budget Committee please stand? Strategic Planning, one of my favorite committees. We have the chair here, Daryl Burns, and our vice chair, Michelle Walker. And would the entire Strategic Planning Committee please stand? I would also like to invite the chair and vice chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. This was the first year for that, Isabel Jimenez Walker. They took phonics out of school when I was a kid, but she's our inaugural chair for that committee, and Matt Murrin, vice chair, and anyone else, all the others who served on that committee, please stand with us if you would. I would like to invite and recognize the chair and vice chair, Bylaws and Policy Committee, Jamie Homeyer, the chair, and Michael Jakes, the vice chair. And then all the other members of that committee, please stand. I think you could do a better job clapping for Bylaws because that's a tough committee. I said, like, someone asked me about Bylaws, I said I ran from the door. No, but a good job, so I'm teasing. That's a committee that's so needed and so important, and they do a great job. So I'd like to recognize the chair and vice chair of the Advocacy Committee. Brent Sager is the chair of that, and Jennifer Langston Justice is our vice chair. So, and all the members, please stand with that as well. Good job. I would now like to recognize the chair and vice chair of the Member Engagement Committee, and that is Will Klein, the chair, Forrest Stodchill, the vice chair, and if you're a member of that committee, please stand. And now I'd like to recognize the chair and vice chair of the Risk Management Committee. Terry Gilgore is the chair, and Jerry Moore is the vice chair, and if you are a member, please stand to that committee. So, thank you. And now I would like to recognize the 2022 Output Group chairs and vice chairs. Their names will be listed on the screen. And would all Output Group chairs and vice chairs please stand for us? Thank you. Let's give all of the individuals a hearty round of applause again. Thank you. And I won't tell the chicken and the pig going into business story again, but you know what? You all are in 100%, and I appreciate that. So, all right, so at this time, I would like to ask Kaylin Hubbard to come up, but we're going to recognize the members of the 19th Leadership Academy class who have ended their year of leadership training, prepared and ready to serve the local and state associations. I've had a chance to get to meet this class, and they are the best class ever. They're a very good group of people. But at this time, Kalen Hubbard is the chair of the Leadership Development Output Group, and he will conduct the graduation. As Kalen shares a few words, I'd like to ask that the 2022 Leadership Academy class begin making their way on stage. And I should say we have a special guest in the audience too and maybe one of you will introduce him from California who's with, okay. Go right ahead, Caitlin.
Best class ever, really? Thank you, John. So there's no way to describe how pleased you are with the success of the Leadership Academy as a whole, as we continue to see the Leadership Academy alumni serving on committees and chairing and vice chairing many of them. Some volunteer for PAGs, work groups, task force, and many others serve as local board and association officers and committee chairs. We're accomplishing what the crafters of this program set out to do: develop strong and prepared leaders for the Realtor organization. So, will all leadership alumni who are here today please stand and be recognized? So, before we recognize the 18th Leadership Academy class, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the 2020 Leadership Academy class. Due to the pandemic, this class did not get the recognition they were due. So at this time, I'd like them to stand and be recognized. Sorry we didn't get you on stage and a whole big deal and everything. We wanted to make sure that we, just like, got it. All right. Best class. It's adorable. They really believe it. All right. So thank you and congratulations to that class. And now to the 19th Leadership Academy class. As I call your name and board association, please step forward to receive your certificate. Justin Barnes, Newton McDonald County. Angel Borgard, Bagnell Dam. Jessica Brock, Tri-Lakes. Blake Fisher, Ozark Gateway. Best association ever. Ashley Hester, Columbia. Kayla Johnson, St. Louis. Oh, man. See those nails? You got to be careful shaking Kayla's hand. Daggers. Pam Long, Greater Springfield.
A quick side note. Can we break in for just a half a second? How long have you had your real estate license? 47 years. You're not too old to get in the Leadership Academy. You should also.
That's fantastic. That's a lifelong learner. That's amazing. Rebecca Prome, Pulaski County. Say it right? I practiced that last name for like 2 hours today. I hope. Oh, no, we've got a couple other last names I'm not too confident on, so we'll wait. All right, Mike Rosika, Southern Gateway. Kinda, a little bit. Christy Serrano, Greater Springfield. Cricket Staggs, Lake of the Ozarks. Looking sharp, too. And last but not least, Kim Stocksville, Jefferson City area. Let's give another round of applause for the 19th graduating class of Missouri Realtors.
One more item of business the class would like to do, so are you doing that, Kim, or?
I'll say that everybody talks about the greatest class ever. What about the greatest class teacher ever?
So as you guys know, we did a coloring book for our class project. And open it, please. It seemed unfair to leave the greatest class leader out.
All right. We'd now like to welcome and recognize the 2023 Leadership Academy class. They will have their first retreat next month, and their names are on the screen. Please stand if you're here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylin, and congratulations to the 2022 Leadership Academy class for a job well done. We expect great things from them in the future, like we've seen with so many previous leadership class graduates. Well, this concludes the 2022 Missouri Realtors Awards presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today. I believe we have another event coming up in this room next, so please stick around for the candidate forum, and then we have the emerging issues still to come, so lots of good things still to happen. Thank you.
since I have been a Missouri Realtors president, this is an event that's really near and dear to my heart. Nothing better than an organization with informed constituents that elect the right person for the right job at the right time. And so we're going to hear today from the two candidates that will be in the election that we'll vote on tomorrow morning to take the position of treasurer-elect for the Missouri Realtors. So I don't know where our second candidate is, but I'm going to welcome to the stage Brian Jared. Up, Brian. And Michelle Walker. Brian is from the Southeast Missouri. What do you call the Springfield?
Greater Springfield Board of Realtors.
Greater Springfield Board of Realtors. And he is a credentialed candidate and has been campaigning for about 9 months or a year for this position. Here comes Michelle. She is from the St. Louis Association and is running for the same office. So we're going to spend 30 minutes getting to know these people a little bit better. And we did a little coin toss before we got to the stage, and Brian won. So I'm going to let him start the presentation today by telling us a little bit about himself and his goal for being elected to the position.
Thank you. So in the spirit of President Mayfield, I'm going to tell him a story in two parts. I'll give you the second part when we get to my conclusion. So go to 2004. I get a call from my local board president, Chuck Lavery. At least that's who he told me he was, because I didn't have a clue who my local board president was at the time, let alone the fact of what our board did. But he called and asked me if I would come up to the Capitol Conference. I immediately said yes, because I was asked and was excited at the fact that somebody recognized me. I get up there expecting, okay, this is great, I'll see a handful of realtors and learn something new. And those of you who have been into a Capitol Conference, I was a little overwhelmed to see about 400 realtors walking around like a bunch of ants in a maze, and a little overwhelmed at first, but it did teach me something. And I saw two things. I learned that this is a very welcoming body. They enjoyed seeing new faces there. I also saw the fact that they wanted people to be involved, and I wanted to be more involved with it. And hence, it started to lead down the road of my involvement, wanting to sit there and get to know the membership, get to know what I can do to be a more professional. So I went back to my board, got more involved, became a board president, state director, and hence I'll tell you the rest at the end.
Thank you, Brian. I'm going to let Michelle tell us about herself.
Good afternoon. I'm Michelle Walker. I have been serving in this association about the same amount of time as Brian. We've been serving together, and I didn't do that. When I found this association, I found my family. I found my passion. I found the people that I connect with and the people that I want to impact. I have served beginning with Women's Council. Women's Council was my introduction to this organization. I didn't do that.
I think it's somebody we're paying back there to control this, so you'll get it under control in a minute.
Can you start my time over, please? I'm just kidding. So it started with Women's Council. Women's Council, the task is to ask. That's an old thing that Women's Council said before. And so Leah Petrus and Cindy Fox, they asked me to come to a luncheon. And at the time, I thought I was just old ladies lunching. But then they asked me to go to a conference in Branson. I didn't know what a conference was even. But I went. And I'll tell you what, I've been to every single state and national conference for the past 10 years. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I think the highlight has been being involved with the scholarship program, the mentorship program, and the first-time attendee orientation that we've developed as Missouri Realtors, because when you come into our organization now, you don't have to wander around for your first 3 meetings for a year to figure out what's going on. We've got it right there in front of you.
I wonder if you move your mic to the other lapel, maybe that would make a little difference.
Turn it off.
We'll try.
fully.
It seems like when you turn toward the mic is when it goes down. Okay. Brian, I'm going to give you a question that I'd like you to answer as best you can. You know, realtors come in all shapes and sizes, all ages, and all demographic backgrounds. And we are asking you to represent all of those people. If I were a brand new realtor and came to you as a member of the leadership team, what would you do to integrate me into the association?
Thank you. The first thing I think I would do if you're a new realtor is find out what your passions are, because it's scary starting out. We know there's a lot to take in. We're excited, we're motivated, we want to do something. But at the end of the day, it's finding out what fits you, what your needs are. NAR has some wonderful resources, but it's what makes your business successful. Everybody wants to do the ask immediately, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if we don't get them established, get somebody to where they feel comfortable it is, it's hard to do the ask when there's so much to take on. So my best thing I can do is tell people, hey, what can we do for you to make you a better realtor, so then we can down the road ask you, step up and be more involved. Thank you.
Okay. Michelle, I'm interested how you would handle a brand new member who's maybe a little bit different than you, and what would you tell them about involvement in the association?
I think everybody's a little different than me. And I think that that's what makes our organization beautiful, is that we have so many different people from different places, from different size boards. So a brand new agent, what I would do is everything I can to get them involved at their local association and to invite them to the Missouri Realtor Business Conference and to help them get to the National Association of Realtors Conference. Because I believe as our members get involved, it changes who they are. And so I think it's absolutely critical that we reach out to the new members, we ask for their participation, and then once they get here, we show them the dignity and respect that they deserve. Thank you.
That's a great answer. This may end up looking like a tennis contest, but I want to make sure that everybody gets to address the same issues. So I'm going to ask you, Brian, I'd like for you to give me an example of a time that you served in some leadership role, maybe even it was the local association, and what events required you to step up and guide your group in a different direction.
So I would say when I was board president in 2014, we started a challenging year. We decided to switch our multi-list vendor. We decided to regionalize 7 associations into a regional MLS. And a month and a half later, we decided to switch all of our lock boxes out. We are here at this hotel when we launched Flex MLS and having calls blow up my phone of, it's not working, where's my listing, where's it at? And having to remind our members that at the end of the day, things happen, but we are doing what's best for them. And in the lockbox situation to where, yes, it's not the best time, it's the busiest time of the year, but we have to work through this. And we did nothing but give them support and help them through and realize that at the end of the day, we're looking out for their best interests and the tools that will provide them to be the best they can be.
Great. Michelle, do you have an example of a leadership event in your life that you had to change the path, the course that everybody thought they ought to go down?
Absolutely. And, you know, similar to Brian, it was 2014. And so I was president-elect of St. Charles County Women's Council of Realtors. And our president got a job and wasn't able to attend meetings and things like that. What I learned through that experience, because I was ready to move forward. Okay, we've got to start over something. We can't just have a president that's not here. However, what I learned from that experience is we're a leadership team. We're a team. We stand up for each other. We work hard to make our organization shine. So it isn't about me. It isn't about her. It was about the organization. And so to have to lead the organization as president-elect, I learned so much through that experience because I really and truly learned it wasn't about me, or that president. It was 100% about the organization. Thank you.
Great comment. Having been down this path, I assure everyone in the audience that hasn't run for office in Missouri Realtors that it's a lot of work. You got to be a lot of places. So not necessarily limited to your campaign for this election, but sometime in the last year that you've had to make a tough decision that you really didn't want to make. Can you explain that time and tell us why it was so hard for you?
I think that within the last year, the toughest decision I had to make was making sure the time was there. Not that I didn't want to do it or did not commit to it, but making sure I didn't sacrifice my family time. Making sure when I did this, because I knew this was a huge commitment, and I wanted to make sure that I devoted all my time to this, so I'm doing it right, so I'm serving the members. And that involved being able to visit the boards I could visit in person, be able to call the directors personally and ask them their questions. What do you want? What am I missing here? What can I do to help you if I'm elected? That was probably one of the toughest decisions, making sure that when I did this, that I wasn't leaving any stone unturned and making sure the fact at the end of the day, I was doing what's right by everybody so I can give the full commitment to this.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the same thing. What was your toughest thing in the last year?
So
why was it tough on you?
Just like Brian, this campaign and deciding whether or not to run for this position. So a little bit of a background is I served on my local school board for the past 6 years. It's not been a real fun place to be the last couple. In December, I started talking to my family. What do we think? Should I run for the school board again? Should I run for Missouri Realtors? What should I do? And my family said, Mom, my kids, you are so passionate about the Realtor organization. That's what you need to do. So I did not run for the school board again because, like Brian, I know the time commitment. I have served not just at the state level for a decade, but also at the national level. And so I truly understand the commitment required for this leadership role. As such, I did not run for school board again. And I'll tell you, that was a very tough decision.
I think everyone in this organization probably understands. I mean, everybody's got their own reason why they come to the meetings. And Mayfield put that on the landing last week. What are you looking forward to at the meetings? And everybody said, oh, see my friends, my realtor family. As an independent broker in a small office, with a small office, I always wanted to come to the meetings to learn what was happening, what was new, what could I tell my clients that I learned from my association work. And this, through the last 5 or 6 years, I'm really proud that our association has focused on emerging issues and try to ventilate those and bring them to the surface and educate the members that come to these meetings. That in mind, do you have anything that you see on the horizon that you think is a big issue that we need to be gearing up for?
I do. Most of you know the lawsuits with the Department of Justice. That could easily change our industry. I've been in it 22 years, and it's amazing how much that can change what we do and how we function. We need to make sure our members are informed with what's happening. There's a little bit of information out there, but we need to keep them abreast of what's happening for sure, because the changes that come could make a difference how we serve our clients, how we practice what we do. I know there's the website from NAR that is thedifference.realtor that tells a lot of that information. We need to get the word out there and not wait until it happens, but start prepping people for what could be so they're prepared and not caught off guard.
Big issue. Big issue coming up. Michelle.
That's definitely the most pressing issue in our industry. But it's not a lawsuit with the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice entered a settlement with our organization and then backed out of it. There are multiple lawsuits that are against the association, against most of the big brokerages. And what they're saying is the way we do business is not what's best for the consumer. I believe that cooperation is absolutely competition, and that is what is best for the consumer. I will share that with my involvement at the national level, I have insight into these issues that I can only get through serving at the level there. I think it is going to change how we do business, and I think it is absolutely critical that Missouri Realtors help to equip the local associations, because that's where most of the members are going to be getting their information. Missouri Realtors has to equip the local boards to be able to provide the Difference.Realtor and the other resources from NAR, so that we, as an organization, we get it right.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys have been so efficient. Are you up for taking a question or two from the audience? This is off script. But is there anybody that has something that they'd like to ask, allow both of the candidates to answer, whether it's about association activities? Okay, everyone's got a question, and I'm from experience, I know his questions are always hard. Speak up and then I'll repeat it.
As realtors, we have to abide by our code of ethics. As someone in the leadership position, if you have seen what could be a violation of our code of ethics, will you report that?
Okay, I think I have the gist of his question. Do you feel like in a leadership role, if you were elected and you found someone within the organization that was violating a code of ethics standards, how would you handle that? I'll let Michelle go first and then.
So I'm actually a trained ombudsman and mediator for Missouri Realtors. I would probably just pick up the phone and reach out to that person. That would be my first step. Of course, I would probably reach out to the rest of the leadership team before I called a member to discuss something like that, and Brianna, our CEO, wherever she is, and make sure that I'm not overstepping. At that point, I think that we're all people. I can pick up the phone and call. Hey, do you mean what this is? Do you understand what you're doing? Do you understand that it may be a problem with the code of ethics? And as a leader, it's really probably not for me to actually make that call, but I would reach out to the leadership team. And I'm sure that staff would probably at that point say, okay, Michelle, we'll take it from here, and I will let them do that.
How do you visualize that would go in your mind?
We do need to have a conversation. Members do make mistakes. Members, not everything is intentional, and we have to keep that in mind. We're all human when it comes down to it. Most people are doing what they believe is best and don't realize what they're doing. If the violation is egregious enough, then absolutely we need to take action. But that's not usually the case. There's nothing wrong in contacting our members, having that conversation, and understanding where it comes from. And the best thing we can do from it, if there is a violation, sometimes is having an education moment from it, making sure that we can teach everybody. Because sometimes not all of us know what the violation would be or what the intent is. And the best thing we can do is educate our members so they understand and can go from there so we can be the best that we can be.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to do one more question. Anybody got a good one? I think that's Lynn Van Meter. Yeah. Shout out, Lynn. Lynn, I think I'll paraphrase what you said. In a time when we're trying to juggle what we're going to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion, there's a lot of opportunities for some people to feel like they're being singled out or left out. How can we handle that the best way and service all of our membership? And I'm going to let Michelle have 30 seconds to answer that.
All right, very good. So I was not aware that diversity was a divisive issue. And so I'm sad a bit to hear that. However, I will continue doing what I've done for the last decade for all members. Every single member benefits from our organization. And some members do have challenges that many of us don't face. So I will continue being myself. I will continue speaking for what I believe is right. And I will do the best I can to unite. What I will say is, even in this campaign, I tried to do that. I tried to do that. I didn't want things to be divided in a campaign because we're friends. Brian's been my referral partner for years. And so, it was in that spirit that I said, let's hold a joint event. And I've done my best in this campaign to follow all of the rules and just give it my all.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Brian, you have any thoughts on opportunities for unity?
We have to remember that we are all different. We all come from different backgrounds. We don't know where everybody stands on everything. And we have to remember that we do have to represent everybody, not make assumptions, not attack, not sit there and accuse, but again, to educate and learn. If we ever kill the conversation, it is over. And we have to remember to keep that conversation always open. It's the only way we grow. It's the only way we get to be better than we have been. We always, always have to keep that conversation open. It's what makes the difference. I have been so blessed coming here, the amount of people I've met, things that have put me even out of my comfort zone. But all that's because of willing to talk to people, getting to know people, and learning the fact, and that's why we can be better, and that's how we handle diversity with our organization.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to wrap things up. I'm going to give them each just a second to collect their thoughts. They'll have 90 seconds to send us away with a parting thought, anything that they haven't been able to touch on. So since you started, I'm going to let Michelle go first on this closing.
All right. So I love Missouri Realtors. I love all of our Missouri Realtors. Standing up for diversity and inclusion should not be divisive. We have to have very tough conversations. I kind of live in an uncomfortable space where I'm used to having those tough conversations. We need to get more used to having those conversations and talking about things that might make us uncomfortable. I believe that my experience speaks for itself. I have been serving at the national level for over a decade. Next year, I will be on the NAR leadership team as the Realtor Party Community Engagement Liaison. That will give Missouri voice at the national level. I am honored to have that position. Kenny Parcell called me and he said, Michelle, out of 1.6 million members, I get to choose 15 people to be on my leadership team. I want you to understand what a big deal this is. So what I intend to do is bring what I learned from there back to Missouri to do everything I can to make our organization the absolute best it can be. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the second part of my story, 2014, staying in the Capitol Plaza Hotel with the best leadership academy group ever. And Richard Mendenhall.
Hey, that was my
that's
class.
there.
Wait. That was my
Or
class.
2010, I'm sorry, 2010. Was it? Anyway, so we stayed there, 14 of this. But long story short, Richard Mendenhall finished up the session. And he asked for me to step aside for a second so he can ask a question. I did, and his question to me was, what the hell is wrong with Springfield? Caught me off guard a little bit. But he continued with, you haven't had a state president since 1980. Your members don't step up. Nobody gets involved. What is wrong? You're the third largest association in this state. I took that. I would love to sit there and say that was my leadership role, where I headed it off and decided to do this now. But what it did do is it got me to go back to my association. It got me to talk to my members and engage and find out what is the difference. We've had 2 state presidents from our area then. More people have stood up. More people have gotten involved. And what that did is made me look in the mirror and going, what can I do? If I can do this on the local end, what can I do on the state end? And I realized I can listen to our members. I can get them to get more involved, because at the end of the day, that's what I do. I engage. I have no problem sitting there and talking to somebody saying, what do you want to know? What can I do to help you? And that is why I'm running, so we can be a better association. Thank you.
I want to thank the candidates for both being willing to join me on the stage and have a little bit of uncomfortable moments and try to articulate their deepest thoughts and why they wanted to run for this office. And I want to send all of you off today with the charge that you need to choose the candidate that you think is going to move Missouri Realtors forward the best. This is a 6-year commitment for these people. They're biting off a big mouthful to chew, and they're doing it for us, the members. So I thank you both for agreeing to run for the office, and thank you for participating today.
Thank you.
Bye.
Don't forget to stick around for the Emerging Issues Forum coming at 4. please welcome Daryl Burns and Michelle Walker to the stage.
Of you online have had an opportunity to participate in some of the dynamic discussions and opportunities both yesterday and today. The purpose of this forum is to address issues that are keeping you up at night or issues that you may not be aware of yet that will be keeping you up at night. The economy is an ongoing issue and is ever evolving, which makes its impact always an emerging issue on housing markets.
I know most of my clients are asking questions about what's to come or why is the market behaving like this. So, we're excited to provide you with perspectives on the national economy as well as Missouri's economy.
We have two highly regarded economists that we know are great historians. We will note their prognostications today for later evaluation. Both will provide opening remarks, followed by, as I like to call them, interrogatories, that I hope you find interesting and provocative, arming you with the latest information to assist your business decisions and advise your clients. Michelle?
Jeff Pinkerton serves as Director of Economic Research for the Missouri Department of Economic Development. In this role, he monitors Missouri's economy and advises economic developers and state government leaders on global, national, and regional economic trends. Jeff's research focuses on state and regional economic competitiveness. Prior to working for the state of Missouri, Jeff served as a senior researcher for the Mid-America Regional Council in Kansas City. Jeff holds a master's degree in economics from the University of Missouri, Kansas City.
Dr. Lawrence Yoon, our other speaker, as most of you know, is the chief economist for the National Association of Realtors and supervises the research and publication of reports to NAR's 1.4 million members. As such, he is often asked to participate on panels, provide forecasts for real estate, and testify before Congress. He received his undergraduate degree from Purdue University and his PhD from the University of Maryland at College Park. So we'll start with Dr. Yoon today. Since all of you were here, you may not realize that, as predicted, the Federal Reserve raised the federal funds rate again today by 3/4 of a point. I'd like to start with a quote from Lawrence. He said just recently, "We're witnessing a housing recession in terms of declining home sales and home building. However, it's not a recession in home prices. Inventory remains tight and prices continue to rise nationally, with nearly 40% of homes still commanding full list price." So Lawrence, are we in a recession? Are we in a housing recession? Please share your outlook.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting. I am assuming that the technology is working fine. I am here in Washington, D.C., few blocks from the Federal Reserve, where they raised the interest rate by 3/4 of a percentage point. And they are planning to do so again in November. Same large increase and probably another one in early 2023. So we are not done. And mortgage rate increases are certainly causing difficulty in the housing market. I have a brief time, but even in this brief time, I speak a little better with PowerPoint slides. So let me put that onto the screen. So hold one second. All right, so I think you can see the screen. This is the 30-year fixed rate mortgage from 1990. And what I illustrated here is you see the general declining path that has been occurring over the past 30 years. And then I put that little red line. So red line is what the financial market momentum players look carefully. So it doesn't have to do with any rationality. It could just be due to the momentum and everybody behaves similarly. So what that resistance is, once it begins to touch that resistance, then it generally retreat back because resistance is a hard, like a rock, a solid wall, hard to penetrate. But once it is penetrated, once it is punctured in a sense, then it can really begin to move higher. So what I'm illustrating this is that there was a resistance point essentially established at around 5% mortgage rates. And as we know, we are at 6% mortgage rate already. So it punctured the 5% mortgage rate, and now it's beginning to test the second resistance point, which is right in the middle, which is about 6.2%, 6.3%. So we will be testing that. And I'm hoping that it holds and then mortgage rate retreat back down under 6% and hang around at 6% for the rest of the year and even in most of 2023. But if somehow it punctures the second resistance, then it could go up to above 8% rate, which will be quite alarming condition, not only for you, but for your clients, a condition. I mean, one can almost think of this as a battle line between two armies that they are fighting back and forth. But once it is punctured, there's a large advance quickly that occurs. So it's going to test that 6.2% mortgage rate and let's hope that resistance hold. Now, in the meantime, the mortgage rate, which is the red line, generally follows the 10-year Treasury. So when the Fed raised interest rates today, it impacted the short-term rates. 2-year Treasury is going wild, way up. But mortgage rates are more influenced by the 10-year Treasury, and 10-year Treasury really did not move all that much from the Federal Reserve announcement today, because people think, well, once inflation is contained, Federal Reserve maybe sometime next year, second half of next year, may be able to reduce interest rate. So if the inflation is contained, that's a possibility. So 10-year Treasury really did not react too much to today's short-term interest rate hike. So again, the mortgage rate, let's hope it meets that resistance and it doesn't puncture that resistance so that it can come back down under 6% mortgage rate. But in the meantime, as you know, home prices have been exceptionally strong this past 2 years. As Daryl mentioned, we are in a housing recession in terms of fewer building activity. Mortgage lending industry is cutting staff. And the realtors, you have far lower income now, commission income now than before, but your past clients who bought a property with you this past 2 years, they are smiling big. They locked in at those 3% mortgage rates, and they are getting this price appreciation. The same client that you served last year, in a sense, they will be unable to buy the same home they are living in today at 6%. Many of them will be unable to purchase, but they are very thankful having worked with you and purchased, getting this wealth increase along with locking in low payment. But because of the higher mortgage rates that we have experienced throughout this year, the pending contracts has been coming down. We had a fresh news release this morning, which showed a 7 consecutive months of sales decline. No surprise, the most sensitive and the most immediate response to the changes in interest rate policy is the housing sector. When I study Econ 101, they said Federal Reserve changes monetary policy, and we will see the results of those policy probably in 1 year or in 18 months. That's what the textbooks say. But the housing sector pretty much respond immediately in terms of the economic impact. Now, the financial market always goes wild just from the rumors of the Federal Reserve, but excluding the financial market, the most immediate and sensitive sector to changes in mortgage rates, interest rate is the housing sector. Now, here is a data across the MLSs in the past 30 days. What we are finding is that half of the home, 51% of the homes are still being sold at or above list price. This is not a soft market. For home buyers, this is still a tough condition. Nonetheless, 49% of the homes are being sold with price concession. Look at the very last column on the right side. So it shows for homes that actually close, how many days did it come on the market before contract was signed? So on the homes that already closed. So among those homes where they did provide some price concession in the first week through price negotiation, it was 4.6% price concession. But as the days on the market lengthens, say up to 2 months, 60 days, the price concession is 8 to 10% price concession. And if it's 120 days, price concession is 14.9%. To illustrate, you need to talk with your home sellers, make sure you price the home correctly on the first go. Otherwise, it's going to sit on the market. And once it sits on the market for a long period, this is roughly what the price concession is required. The other columns are not closed, either active or pending, and then the price shaving is actually a little modest. Maybe that's why it's not closing, because you need to have a deeper price concession to get the closing done. In related to the job market, Missouri, right in the middle of the country, it shows 0.6%. And what does 0.6% mean for Missouri? It has 0.6% more jobs in the latest data compared to March 2020 when that ugly COVID arrived. So Missouri is on the positive side, unlike, say, Kansas, which is minus 1.5, or Illinois, which is down minus 0.4. Generally speaking, it's color-coded. Blue-collar states, more job creation. The leading states, Utah, Texas is doing well, Florida is doing well. States that is not doing well would be New York, Louisiana, Alaska, Minnesota. So those are some of the comparison, but Missouri is on the positive side. And also in terms of the long-term job situation in Missouri, these are W-2 statement salary jobs. So it's not realtors commission income jobs, but salary job with W-2 statements over a past 22 years. And you see that little fluctuation occurring, but you reached an all-time high right before COVID. Then you really went down during the lockdown, but now you have surpassed the pre-COVID condition. So now record high number of jobs in Missouri. Important, considering mortgage rates are high. So how do you get a new set of buyers? Job creation, job creation. That is what is needed. For the short time frame, let me just move quickly. Inventory levels are very low. Look at the middle of the graph. When the inventory levels are 4 times larger than today, this is when the prices really sink. So right now, we are fewer buyers, but also fewer inventory. I mean, the inventory is increasing, but it's only very modest increase. And many home sellers are loving their 3% rate, and maybe they are unwilling to list their property because now they would face 6% mortgage rates. My final slide, just on the outlook, is that 2019, the very first line, pre-COVID, somewhat boring, no increase in sales, price increase of only 5%. Then in 2020 and 2021, exceptional performance, thanks to record low mortgage rates. Now that the mortgage rates are higher, 22 forecast is that I think the home sales for the year total will be down about 13 to 18%, depending on locality, but the prices will still be up. So the dollar revenue on the most optimistic scenario is that it's going to decline only 2% dollar revenue. On the pessimistic side, dollar revenue may be down about 10%. And next year, I'm hoping that mortgage rates stabilize. Again, it doesn't puncture that resistance. And then we have job creation so that unit sale may actually squeak out a little gain. Home prices, I don't think it is in danger of any decline. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you all. And now I'm going to turn it over to either Daryl or Michelle. So back to you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Please stick around. I think we may have a couple questions for you after Jeff gives his presentation. At this point, we'll hear from Jeff Pinkerton.
Thank you, Daryl. We have some slides up here. Like Lawrence, I'm an economist. I can't speak unless I have some PowerPoint slides to share with you. As I get the chance to go around the state and talk with folks about the economy, the big question I get all the time, the first question Daryl asked me a few weeks ago was, are we in a recession? And on my first slide, we can go to the next slide, please. The other chart is showing retail sales. Retail sales were very strong. You may see in mid-2021, we did see a big spike in retail sales as people started to recover a little bit, people getting out and being more active in the economy. There were some stimulus checks arriving and people spent money, and that didn't come back down since then. You can see the trend that we've had since 2021 has remained very high and well above pre-pandemic trends. So the consumer is strong, and they are strong despite high inflation. The next slide, we'll change the question a little bit, and we'll ask, are we headed for a recession? And here I get far less confident because I'm going to give you a real solid maybe, because there are a lot of things out there that might indicate that we could be headed for a recession. And we've already talked about one of them today. The Consumer Price Index, inflation, is at levels that we haven't seen since the early 1980s. 8.3% was the last headline rate. And we thought we would see that, or I'm sorry, 8.1 was the last headline rate, I believe. We thought we would see that start to dip down since we've seen gas prices, which have been a major driver of high prices over the last year or so. They've been coming down in the last few months. But what's replaced that has been food and shelter cost, and so we have not seen much improvement in terms of inflation. And I think we saw a Fed today that saw that number with inflation remaining high, and they're going to be very, very aggressive, remain very aggressive in terms of fighting inflation and keeping those rates high, unfortunately. And another chart I will show you is just U.S. gross domestic product. The last 2 quarters have been negative. We had a negative quarter in Q1 and followed up in Q2. And a lot of people think back-to-back negative quarters is a sign of a recession. That is not how we technically determine whether or not we're in a recession, but certainly not a good sign. Let's go on to our next slide here. As a matter of fact, I want to have you, let's go ahead and skip ahead a little bit because I know we want to get to some Q&A. So how is Missouri going to handle the economic recovery if we are in one, or the recession if we are going to dip into one in the next few months? So next slide will show you that Missouri is kind of a middle ground state. We're here in the middle of the country, and our economy tends to perform in the middle of the pack. What we have here are different clusters comparing Missouri to the United States in different segments of time. So from left to right, prior to the Great Recession, 2005 to 2027, we grew 2.1%, but the nation grew 6%. The Great Recession happened. It didn't impact us as much. It impacted us, but not as much as the nation. The recovery from the Great Recession was very robust, 26% growth between 2009 and 2019 nationally, but less than that, 10% here in the Midwest, or in Missouri, excuse me. During the COVID recession, again, negative impact, but not as much of an impact here as it was nationally. And since then, we have a very small recovery since then. It's grown, but again, not at the national level. So our economy tends to not have highs quite as high, doesn't have lows quite as low. But you know, with us in economic development, I'm glad we don't have those lows, but I want to get those highs up a little bit more on par with the nation. If we go to the next slide here, we can see we've had a challenge with that. Our growth rate, our average annual growth rate was 1.1%, so we outdid our Midwestern peers, getting closer to the national growth rates. Venture capital side, the entrepreneurial side, that Missouri just quite frankly isn't competing with compared to some of our other states. So we need to turn that around and make sure we have a strength there. And the third area that I think we need to address on the next slide is the quality of life. And I'm talking to people who sell Missouri's quality of life every day. So you all know that very well. People increasingly now, this is more and more, it's always been important, but it's more and more important now. It's more of an economic development issue now than it ever has been. It used to be that people would go to live in places that were good to work. They would go where the jobs were. But increasingly, people are choosing where they want to live, and they'll find work. and they have much more flexibility with that. So things like parks and trails and cultural activities really mean something to all of us, and they mean a lot in terms of economic development. So we need to make sure we're doing that. And one area that we may see that on the next slide here is population change. This is looking at just general county level. Lake homes have high values, and the population there has a lower median household income. And I believe I have just a few other slides to talk about some housing issues to talk about looking at building permit trends. On the next slide here. This is Missouri building permits, and I know permits don't necessarily equal starts or finishes for houses, but permitting activity was very consistent. Even during the COVID shutdown, people were starting to realize they needed more from their home if they're going to be working from home, and people were able to do that. So we saw permitting activity remain very strong, and we do see a pretty sharp up. Missouri, again, we generally take the middle ground. We have opportunities. Missouri, again, we generally take the middle ground. We have opportunities in this next economy, whatever throws our way, but Missouri has to step up and take advantage of these opportunities. And again, quality of life is something that you all deal with, and that is an economic development issue, and we need to make sure we maintain that quality of life issue. So with that, I think we have plenty of time for some questions. I want to join the panel here.
Yes, please, join us. We have a seat for you. Thank you, Jeff.
The hot
Thank
seat.
you, Lawrence. That was so insightful. You both, yes. You both hit on many of the questions that we discussed during our pre-conference meetings, but there's a few more questions that I'm sure are on the minds of many of us, and Daryl is going to be posing those questions to you.
Hello. Lawrence, you kind of dodged the question on the recession, and you did talk about the housing recession. Jeff pointed out he thinks we're on a little bit of a slippery slope towards a U.S. recession. Do you feel the same, or you know, where do you think we'll land? And during that period, what kind of inflation rate do you expect us to live through?
The recession, informal definition is 2 consecutive quarters of GDP decline. So GDP decline in the first quarter and the second quarter. So as a economist, say they're in the evening, cocktail party talking, we are in a recession, 2 straight quarters. But we would not know for sure until the official committee. There's a group of people, I think like that, 15 people sitting around the table, and then they look at all the data, and then they will vote yes or no or on whether we have a recession. But they will decide that about 1 year from now, when all this is all over and done. So, it's not that useful information at that time other than for historical perspective. But for realtors and for everyday people who want to know what's going to happen to the economy, whether or not we are in a recession, this would be one of the most bizarre recession of all time, in a sense that jobs are plentiful. There's help wanted sign. You walk around the street, help wanted sign, you visually witness. In a hotel, they are short on staff, they want to hire people, and certainly in the airport, with so many pilots, flight attendants, and the mechanics taking the early retirement because the airline industry thought they will totally crash because of COVID. What do you know? Everybody wants to get back to normal life now. And consequently, the help wanted signs are everywhere. The unemployment rate is very, very low. So consequently, if we are in a recession, it is a very bizarre recession, but still, given that the Federal Reserve will continue to raise interest rates, which means that it will steadily bring the inflation rate down, but inflation rate will come down, as the Chairman Powell mentioned today, with some pain. And the pain is already happening in the mortgage industry where people are cutting jobs. But he actually expects some of the large corporations, whether technology companies, Procter & Gamble, General Motors, to cut people because economic activity will be slower and then companies don't need as many workers. So there will be some little bit of pain.
Well, I have heard that referred to as a growth recession, so because of the job employment opportunities. So I'll let you pass on that one that I'm keeping track of for your prognostications. Lawrence, what government policies do you think have the greatest impact on our on the inflation and possibility of a recession right now?
Well, one of the great impactful policy is something that the realtors constantly mention to their policymakers. We are short on housing. So if we build more homes, apartments, right now apartment vacancy rates are at historic lows. Consequently, the rents are rising, and rising rent contribute to that inflation. And inflation then leads Federal Reserve to raise the interest rates. So if we had built more apartments or just single family homes, whatnot, if we had relieved all this housing shortage, inflationary pressure would be far less. The other part is we understand the importance of green energy. In fact, I am here in NAR DC office building. This is the first green designated building in Washington, DC, when it was first constructed, I think 10, 15 years ago, first green building. Now, since then, there are many other green designated buildings. So green energy is important, but it is very small, less than 10%. 90% of America's energy consumption requires carbon. And many oil companies are saying that, well, what they are hearing coming out of Washington is that they want to kill off oil companies. So if that is the rhetoric coming out of Washington, imagine you are an oil company. Do you want to make that $20 billion investment knowing that Washington wants to kill you? Well, so they are very hesitant to make those investments. Consequently, we are not drilling as much. And if we don't drill as much, we feel it at the gas pump. We feel it at the, running the building, air conditioning, everything. So that also contributes to inflation. So I think we have to recognize over 90% of energy consumption comes from carbon energy. And more we have, it will lessen the price of gasoline, lessen the price of other energy use. So that will also force the Federal Reserve to be less aggressive in trying to raise interest rates.
Okay, I did hear you mention something that I want to come back to, but Jeff, I'd like to ask you, what do you see as far as state policy that may be not the best for us right now?
Well, I think Missouri has been historically a low-tax state, and I think that's served us fairly well. We rank usually very high in terms of the business climate, and businesses, like to go to places where, the government interaction is less. So we've been able to attract that type of business. Those type of businesses would be manufacturing, transportation. They're more on a tight, they're on every dollar counts for them. So they're going to look for places where they can cut their costs. And that works for us as a state. What I would like to see in the state is a little bit more opportunity for flexibility from the regional perspective. Can the regions maybe see an opportunity, and they may want to pursue something, from maybe a tax perspective or some type of spending perspective they want to focus in on? Can the state help those regions be adaptable to some of the economic opportunities that are out there? So I showed you the chart with the businesses with the high growth that Missouri hasn't participated in. I know, Kansas City, St. Louis, Springfield, or other parts throughout the state, we wouldn't be able to take advantage of that. But those types of businesses maybe aren't necessarily looking for low tax, low service. They may be looking for more skilled workers and things like that. So I look for an opportunity for the state to provide the basics, and with opportunities for our locals perhaps to explore some of those other areas that may be fruitful for them.
Lawrence, we have two large areas in Missouri that are vacation/rental and second home markets. And Jeff kind of alluded to that with his blue shaded areas on his map. What is the outlook for these markets? Will the demand hold up there, especially if there's a big stock market correction or a continued stock market correction?
Jeff?
Oh, that was for Lawrence.
Oh, that was for Lawrence. Oh, Lawrence, you're muted.
Oh, so sorry. I unmuted myself now.
A little.
So the stock market is a very important influence for vacation homes because people who buy vacation home tends to be more on the middle class or wealthy individuals, and they have money tied up in the stock market. So stock market goes up, they feel wealthier and buy vacation home. Stock market has come down this year, and therefore people do not have the financial resources or comfortable financial resources to buy vacation home. However, our monthly sales information we came out today shows 7% of transactions were classified as vacation homes, meaning that we asked realtors, you work with your clients, they bought a property, how would you classify it as? Is it a rental property, primary occupancy, vacation home? We give options. 7%. That is historically high. So what this is indicating is that given the flexibility of office workers to work from home, I think the days of coming to office 5 days a week, it will not happen. It doesn't matter what the CEOs will imply, there will be tremendous worker resistance. There will be some type of hybrid. So if we accept the fact it is some type of hybrid, then we are going to go into a new paradigm. All of us have 2 cars in the garage. Well, you can easily envision an extended family having 2 homes. Extended family, meaning the brothers, sisters, uncle, to say that, well, this week I'm gonna work from the vacation home. It's much more pleasant to work from vacation home with the internet connection. Then next week, my sister can use it, and the following week, the uncle can use it. So not everyone is working from office, but among those office workers, they have greater flexibility to use vacation home, and consequently, I think among the extended family, having that second home will be a normal thing in America going forward. We are in that transition, so I think steadily we will see. So if you are in the vacation resort area next to the lake, I feel good. I would feel good about that condition.
Okay, so one of the questions I wanted to come back to from your previous comments, what is the current housing inventory supply? And you may have touched on that. Is 6 months inventory still considered equilibrium? 2 economists that I spoke to in January of 2020 suggested that there was no inventory shortage, but rather an inventory displacement, meaning, there's houses available here, but nobody wants to live there. So that's an example of inventory displacement. Despite an inventory shortage, quote unquote, 2021 saw a record for number of homes sold. E.C. Romum from UC Berkeley during NAR's December economic forecast suggested that there was not an inventory shortage, but rather a technology compression, or in his words, a tech speed up. Record sales of last year seem unsustainable as buyers fade away due to affordability exacerbated by higher interest rates. With birth rates declining, a continued trend of and a need for multi-generational living, and that is also exacerbated by the increased inflation levels. It's causing more multi-generational living. And also take into consideration the silver tsunami. Not that I would say I'm part of that group, but...
But you are. Sorry.
But, that will contribute to people moving into different housing situations, and of course, as people die off, you'll have houses available. So, is the housing shortage as dire as NAR portends? And just to throw in a little extra, how much does illegal immigration skew the numbers?
When we say there is a housing shortage, people in the Kansas City area, St. Louis area, right in the middle, Springfield or Columbia, they all told me there is not enough homes for sale throughout last year. If there was more inventory, they can do more business, more people will become homeowners. It's not only Missouri. You go to Dallas, Texas, you go to the Florida markets, there's a housing shortage in Martha's Vineyard. So there is a housing shortage all across America in terms of lack of available inventory, especially more on the lower price point where there would have been a ready buyer. Now, 6 months supply was generally considered to be norm because you look at the historical average, it looks like that's where the number is. But nonetheless, we have a better technology. As you know, your clients are doing much of the initial search on their own through the website like Realtor.com and others, doing their own search. And at the more final stage, then they're doing the actual physical visit. So because of the technology improvement, the actual home buying process has shortened in a sense already to move immediately once the home is available. So I would say 6 months is no longer the norm. Probably 4 months or even 3 months could be the new normal. We have to wait and see. And the reason why we have to wait and see, or why it was considered 6 months was considered normal, was when did the home prices rise? Home prices generally rise roughly in line with consumer price inflation, meaning 3 or 4% a year. That was associated with 6 months supply. Now, home prices, as you know, are still in the high single-digit appreciation, which is implying there's still lack of supply. And across the country, at least late last year, early this year, 20% price appreciation. Those are sizable. I mean, those to say that we don't have a housing shortage in that 20% price growth, I mean, those would be misnomer. So our data this morning when we came out, we had 3.2 months supply, 7% price appreciation. So the new normal may be 4 months. So what I'm looking for is when does the home prices rise about 3, 4, 5% a year, and that would be the more normal condition. But Daryl, you are right in terms of lower birth rate, but even with the lower birth rate, US population is rising. And how much is illegal immigration is contributing to that? I mean, obviously, this year is far higher than in the past years. People need some place to live. So all this is creating housing shortage. So you look at how many new construction to house new Americans, as well as the immigration, both legal and illegal. I would say that we are still in a housing shortage condition.
Okay, so I want to...
Maybe if I could, Daryl, real quick, anecdotally on that. Going up and talking to folks around the state about their economy, and I'm up in the north area, and the area population there is flat at best and declining in most places. And I asked them about what their economic issues are, and housing always comes up. And this is a place the population is not growing, but they need housing. Anecdotally, the county was trying to attract a manufacturing plant, and in doing so, they're going to have 6 or so managerial positions. There was not one home that was built in the last 30, 40 years that was management position caliber home. So this is, if you look at the population, look at the demographics and say, well, this place doesn't have a housing issue. They do. It's pervasive.
So as a follow-up to that, one of Governor Parsons' priorities is workforce development in Missouri.
Yes.
Which do you think, excuse me, has a bigger economic impact, workforce development or adequate/inadequate workforce housing?
Well, that's a great question. Pick one of those. I think you have to have the housing, and probably because I can be wishy-washy on the development side, but the housing has to be there, or else you can't get the workers to the jobs. So I would, if I had to pick one, I would definitely pick a housing strategy. We got to solve that, and then we have to be a little bit more creative on the workforce training part, and we have to be adaptable. So when we talk about workforce training, it's difficult to say we're all on board for this program. Let's do this program. Let's train this number of people for this skill, because that skill could be out of, not useful in a matter of months or years. So we have to build a workforce training system that's more flexible and more adaptable. So I'll stick with the more structured housing as the most important part of that equation.
Okay. Sorry. Had a thought and I forgot it, but I'll just pass.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back. So Lawrence, because we're running out of time here, I'm going to combine 2 issues that I mentioned to you. In some areas of Missouri, investors are purchasing as much as 3 to 4 I know what it was. What do you see realtors? what do they need to do? What can we do to help with economic development in the state?
The real estate investors, first, many realtors are small-time investors. There's, our data shows about 1/3 of realtors have the invested property. Part of their retirement planning, in a sense, they want that steady rental income even as they leave the business. So we always have some degree of real estate investor in the field. I think the concern is really over the Wall Street funded real estate investors, the institutional investors coming in. Some are just temporary, like iBuyers. They're buying, but they're selling at the same time. I mean, they're losing a lot of money in the process, but they think that they want to do it. So you have some temporary people who buy and quickly sell, so they're not really reducing inventory. They are just participating in terms of buying and selling quickly. And then you have the Wall Street-backed institutional investors who are buying single-family neighborhood with the intent of renting it, which means that you are preventing home ownership. So you are creating a rental society while one is collecting rents. So the Wall Street companies are collecting rents on those properties. Now, it's hard to stop the Wall Street from doing that in our free society where people are chasing after money opportunities. So they want to chase that, you say yes. But one thing that we have been talking to the policymakers, and this is actually generally due to the feedback that we get from realtors as to the conversation, which is we have been speaking with congressional staff, who then talk with their members of Congress, and they get, that's an intriguing idea. So what is this intriguing idea? At a time when Wall Street companies are buying up and gobbling up the property, we have mom and pop real estate investors who may want to just essentially cash out. They have seen price appreciation, but if they sell it, they know they're going to be hit with a capital gains tax. Now, of course, they can do 1031 exchange, but some people do not want to do 1031 exchange. They just want to get out of the situation. So lowering the capital gains tax, even temporarily, may provide more inventory to show up at a time when Wall Street is gobbling those inventories. So in a sense, so that we can assure that the inventory situation do not get depleted because of Wall Street. Of course, it has an impact on federal budget deficit and whatnot, but we still are sharing that information with policymakers, and they are nodding, but given this is a midterm election time, no one is moving on it.
Lawrence, thank you for reading my cue cards. The part that you didn't answer, though, institutional investors currently are said to own about 2% of our housing stock. And we have been, since 1963, we've been in a range of, I think it's 65%, 66% to 69.5% home ownership rate. Oh, excuse me. NAR has always said that institutional investor ownership is statistically insignificant. When does it become statistically significant?
So overall ownership of institutional investors who are buying single-family property to turn it into rentals, not flipping, turn it into rentals. That is, making up about 2% of all the properties across the country, and in certain cities like Atlanta, the numbers are much higher. And of course, one goes into certain neighborhood, the numbers really begins to pop out. It could be even 30% of the homes could be owned by Wall Street investors for rental properties.
When does it become statistically significant? At what point? Lawrence? Hello? I said, at what point does it become statistically significant?
So right now, nationwide, 1 or 2%, is that statistically significant? You make the judgment. It's still pushing 2% of the population out of the home ownership possibilities. But the fact that they are in the game right now is frustrating. Some home buyers, FHA mortgage has no chance of competing against Wall Street cash buyers. So you make the judgment. Right now it's 1 to 2% range, and is that enough, or would the number rise? But certainly, it's causing discomfort for many people.
Okay, thank you. So getting back to the question I was trying to ask you, what can realtors do?
Well, I think a lot of you probably are very involved in your communities, like Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development Association, as business people, but I think you should probably get in there as leaders as well and share your expertise as what you're seeing on the ground as realtors, because I think, from my perspective, the economic development folks, the chamber folks are aware of the housing issue, but you really can bring some leadership and some actual, this is what's actually happening, and these are the real problems that they're probably aware of, but maybe not to the extent. So I would encourage more leadership involvement in your local communities. That would be needed.
Well, I want to thank both of you for taking my interrogatories.
So that's all the time that we have now. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Lawrence, for joining us and for the valuable discussion and sharing your insights with us. And Daryl, thank you for your interesting questions. Please join me in thanking our speakers.